everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, executive life coach and master hypnotist. And today we want to talk about perspective and the power that it really holds.
Mm-hmm. Well, like everything we talk about when it comes to human behavior, it's always a big conversation. It's never just one thing. Or one-sided. It's dimensional type thing. So we can take perspective, something very simple as your perspective is going to change if you're tired. Your perspective is going to change if you're hungry or if you're thirsty or if you're in pain of some type, a headache or a backache or something like that, or something in your life that's just not being fulfilling. That's going to change your perspective. And then on top of that, those very temporary, in the moment type things, then there's long-term perspective building. The things that we experience throughout our life are all contributing to our overall perspective. So if you had some negative stuff in your life, which we all do, that categorically speaking, if you had negativity with romance, let's say, chances are your perspective is skewed, and then that's where we see all over social media the TikTok dating coaches with the red flags all over the place. Oh, if he does this, it's a red flag. You need to get out of there. Well, they're gaining that perspective through probably lots of dating and lots of bad dates where things just didn't go well, or they went wrong, or they got into a relationship and it didn't seem to live up to their expectations. So it skews their perspective going forward. Everything you experience is contributing towards your future perspective.
Yeah, I think also the problem is then it gets hard when we're dealing with other people because either we can't see their perspective, they can't see our perspective. It just lends to that. Some people are better at trying to put themselves in other people's shoes and find the other person's perspective, and others just have zero ability to put themselves in that place. And that's kind of where perspective has a lot of power, because we have our lived experiences, but we can choose to try and understand where someone else is coming from that we may be dealing with. But that doesn't always resonate both directions.
All very, very, very good stuff to talk about. Very true. Perspective, when it comes to, we can even talk about perspective of narcissism, kind of a topic that we constantly are ongoing. Your perspective at the beginning of that relationship is going to evolve very fast. Like day by day or even moment by moment with the experiences with that person that you're with. So in the beginning, it's all that lovey-dovey, love bubble kind of thing where everything is just great and magical. Even our perspective is so, maybe open and innocent because of this new relationship. It's so exciting that we can easily dismiss negative things that this person is saying or doing because we're expecting that it's going to be, that's just a temporary little blip. We'll just keep on going and act like that didn't happen. So it keeps on skewing your perspective as you go until you have a confused perspective. You don't know where you stand. And that's what perspective is. It's kind of where you're standing in this moment in time on a certain subject. Well, when you're the victim of a narcissist, you no longer know where you stand. You're filled with massive confusion, and now you might have dozens of perspectives about the same person or the same relationship, and that becomes so destructive that you can't really make a decision and stick to it.
Well, and then there's the perspective shift if and when somebody gets out of a narcissistic relationship of any kind, romantic, friend, family, whatever it may be, the way that they start viewing things after, hindsight's 20/20, your perspective totally changes the way that you see said narcissist once you no longer have contact with that narcissist. So it's kind of just like ever evolving. Like perspective is never meant to kind of stop and stay where it is. Yeah, we have basic, like morals, ethics, common sense that we believe in personally that will lend to our perspective. But the way that we view things will never stop changing at the end of the day.
Not really. Not until your perspective will change you and your perspective, but you're never going to change anybody else because of it. When we talk about perspective and how it's hard to get other people to see it, well, that's just, for me, for some reason, my entire life is something that I've always been able to do is see another person's point of view. I've always thought of that as a gift or a virtue. But, sadly, throughout my life, especially until I became a professional life coach, that is, just dealing in my relationships, people would, kind of be annoyed with me. It's like I'm a flip-flopper. Like, you flip-flop. You don't stand your ground, Ken. Yeah, I stand my ground until I have a conversation and someone can have another perspective and some evidence that I wasn't aware of before. And I'm willing to acknowledge that and say, oh, hey, well, that makes sense. I'm glad you shared that with me. I didn't know that before. Now I'm getting a little bit of a change in my perspective on this issue. Other people, they want you to stick convicted to your morals, your values, whatever it might be. Stick to your story 100%. And if you let someone help make you waver, now you're weak. I'm going to say you're weak if you stay stubborn. Stubborn is refusal to acknowledge, and even in the face of evidence. So if you're stubborn, that's one of the most ridiculous and destructive things you can be. That is weak. It takes strength to say, maybe I was wrong. Let me take another look at this.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, because I actually think a little bit opposing of what you're saying. I think it can be a little bit harder and a hindrance to have the ability to look at other people's perspectives, because it becomes much more frustrating when people don't see yours, because like I'm taking the time to look at how you could possibly be feeling based on your experience. Not giving me the grace back can be extremely difficult. Or, like the flip-flopper thing, I'm in my 20s. There's drama, that's life. I mean, it doesn't stop at any age, but 20s for sure. And so, like, I'll hear a story, and I refuse to, take a side or start talking about a situation until I've heard from both parties. Because if we just believe the first person we hear every single time, we're not getting the full information. I can't count the amount of times that I was told something and like chose to believe it, or was like, let me check in on that. And then I got the other perspective and I was like, oh, I can't believe I went along with that. Or, oh, I'm glad I asked. Like, I asked for clarification. Yep. Like, it's like life is just a game of telephone. You can't believe the first thing you hear. You need to dig deeper. You need to ask questions, because that's where you get real perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Too many times people will just write off a person because another person told them, well, that person's an idiot, or they're a jerk, or they're an asshole, or they're a bitch. Oh, okay, well, this person told me, so that must be true, so I'm no longer going to have anything to do with that other person. No, you have your own perspective, should not allow someone else's to change yours so easily. What are my interactions with that person? Have they ever been a jerk to me? Have they been an asshole to me? No, never. Well, then maybe the person over there is just starting rumors. Maybe they're the problem. Maybe I need to change my perspective of that person, that they're not so trustworthy.
I will say that I do think there's still a stopping point to this, though, because there's something that I also encounter a lot in my age group, and that's people saying, well, she was always nice to me, so I wasn't bothered by the fact that 8 other people I know had bad experiences with her. And then they're upset when they finally have their bad experience. That's where perspective flips the other way. Like, okay, you have enough other people's perspectives to understand that this person is probably, 95% sure the problem in whatever situation. So, like, you can lend grace and you can lend, your open-mindedness to somebody, but there is also a limit as well.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. It's a perspective. It changes, it shifts, it will fool you. You think you know what you're thinking or feeling, but then you find out something else. It's really important to constantly be looking for something rooted in evidence with a foundation that makes sense, not just just fluff that comes out of your head.
Well, and genuinely, 80% of what you do in the office is lending a different perspective. Genuinely. That's like the life coaching portion is helping people get perspective that they're missing, because a different perspective is what is going to make you understanding, forgiving, accepting, anything, whether it's just understanding a situation is what it is, or understanding that person did actually have a point. That's what we're doing, is trying to lend perspective that people cannot get on their own, because being in your own head is hard. We're never going to have the right answer just living in our own space.
Yeah, all well put.
All right. Well, thank you for that conversation. I think this one was important. I can't believe we took so long to get to it.
That was real good. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you guys need help gaining a little bit of perspective, please give us a call today. Have a nice day.
Thank you.